And away we go, or I guess as they say in The Dark Knight, here we go. It's the off season, but my goodness, we have breaking news on this edition of Dolphins Today, a live edition. And in one sense, I got to kind of thank the Miami Dolphins front office and the organization for choosing a Wednesday to come out with this news, because we're live on the air from Jet Sports HQ for a live edition of Dolphins Today. And you probably know the news, but after just one season, Vic Fangio, the Dolphins Defensive Coordinator, is out and will not return. So breaking news on this edition of Dolphins Today. And we ask you, do you like the move of the Dolphins moving on from Vic Fangio? Let me know right away. Go ahead and type yes or no. Do you like the move? Yes. Or do you hate the move? No. Let me know. And we are off and running on a live edition of Dolphins Today. I'm not going to waste any more time because we do have breaking news on this edition of Dolphins Today. So say hello with me to the one and only Jeremy Chuggs. Chuggs, we kind of matched today, and we're on the same page here with the Dolphins in this breaking news. We had the whole show scripted, built up, graphics ready to go, and then boom, we've got breaking news, and the Miami Dolphins are moving on from Vic Fangio. I know you've got a lot of knowledge on a number of different teams, but especially with the Dolphins. Are you surprised by this move?
I am a little bit surprised, but what this tells me is that the Dolphins, they're needing to change things up, and they're saying, hey, we're not ready to let go of Mike McDaniel because we still believe in him, but something has to change on this team.
No, there is no doubt about it. And I think obviously as this situation, it literally just happened. So we're breaking you the news. And of course, when there's a move of this magnitude made, we're going to continue to unpack the layers. And I think the more that comes out, I think we'll see that it might have had more to do with just the personality clash between Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio. Not saying one's right or one's wrong, but you could kind of pick up, and I know I don't want to put too much stock into Hard Knocks, but some of that behind-the-scene footage, you saw how Mike McDaniel was, and Vic Fangio is known as the most old-school of old-school defensive coordinators, so there is a little bit of an element in which there's some new school versus old school here, and that probably played a lot into this.
And we want to hear from you folks at home. All the Dolphins fans, we want to hear from you and see what your reaction is to this, because this is pretty big news. This is pretty unprecedented. We didn't see this one coming, so use hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat to get up on the show. But I just wanted to bring this one up because I just saw it in the comment section. It really intrigued me. Vrabel as DC?
Defensive-minded guy, obviously let go by the Tennessee Titans. And he had so much success, or not. I think his firing in Tennessee was more of, the disconnect with the front office and the ownership and that sort of thing. I think he still certainly has the resume to be a head coach. But if with all the head coaching vacancies in the NFL starting to get filled up even faster, if he's still available, I love the idea of bringing Mike Vrabel. I love that.
If you're Mike Vrabel, would you rather be the Carolina Panthers head coach or the Dolphins DC?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's also a great point. And this was something we had planned on talking about with the Frank Smith on the other side of the ball, the offensive coordinator rumors. Is Carolina even that compelling of a head coaching job? Would you rather be a defensive coordinator? It's a great question, Chuggs. Would you rather be the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins with a roster that's ready to win now? The framework of the Miami Dolphins franchise is there, and I think it's not even an exaggeration to say without the injuries that this team went through in the latter portion of the 2023 season, you're looking at really a legitimate contender. And obviously the ending of the season didn't play out the way Dolphins fans had hoped. But that said, you've got a lot of momentum moving into the offseason as far as the framework of the roster. Obviously, the superstars like Tyreek Hill. Defensively, you got a lot of pieces. Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb's going to come back. Jalen Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel, if the Dolphins are able to re-sign him, he's a free agent. And the linebacker position, David Long, was very, very consistent all season. And obviously, Javon Holland had a breakout year. He's one of the highest-rated safeties, according to Pro Football Focus. So that's an appealing defensive coordinator gig, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I mean, Sherry May, she's a legend here at Dolphins Today. She knows the deal. So start using those hashtag Dolphins to get your questions in. She said it must be about the money. What do you think about that?
I don't know if it's necessarily the money. Obviously, like I said, and I'm going to say it probably 100 times throughout this show, we'll know more as this situation develops and as more details come out. Of course, that could change our opinion and change our mind, but I really think this has a lot to do with personality clash, and I think being a player's coach the way Mike McDaniel is, because again, I'm not saying you watch Hard Knocks, you know everything about the Dolphins. But that said, you see the live footage of how he interacts with his team on those behind-the-scenes episodes of Hard Knocks, and you can definitely conclude from that Mike McDaniel is a players-oriented coach, and that's a little bit more of a new school mentality compared to Vic Fangio, who is an old-school DC. And when he was in Chicago, one of the best defenses there, helped him get a head coaching job for the Denver Broncos. But old school football guy, all about the system. And one thing I will appreciate about Vic Fangio is he never let anything up for interpretation. When he was talking with the media, he was very, very forthright, very, very transparent. He said, and I'll use Cam Smith as an example, the second-round pick out of South Carolina, he said Cam Smith's just not good enough to play. And he was critical of guys like Kader Kohu until they worked through that system. And I think sometimes maybe there's just a personality clash between a guy like Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio. And it's not to take anything away from either one of them, and one philosophy is better than the other. There's just some noticeable differences that I think led to Vic Fangio and the Dolphins parting ways.
Ray Finkel said, fired or mutual agreement. According to Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo, the two sides are mutually parting ways. So yeah. It looks like the Dolphins didn't want Fangio back as much, and Fangio said, I don't really want to be here either.
Right. I do think, and you know, we always joke about this with if you break up with your significant other, it's never mutual. But I do think this might be the case that it is mutual. There's also some rumors already building up that perhaps Vic Fangio wants to take the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinating job, as that job is open. And I believe his family, that would allow him to be closer to his family if he was the DC for Philadelphia. But again, these are all rumors at this point. What we do know is that the Miami Dolphins and Vic Fangio, first-year defensive coordinator, have mutually parted ways. And I think that verbiage is, in fact, important.
Anna, Fangio was not a good fit with the head coach. Nope. Do you think that is true? I mean, you watched every episode of Hard Knocks. You saw a little bit of behind the scenes. Obviously, not everything, the interactions between Fangio and McDaniel. But obviously, Fangio, new school guy wearing shoes with the tag still on. Fangio probably has shoes that were before Mike McDaniel was even born.
You know he's wearing the Nike Monarchs.
Yes.
Fangio's a big Nike Monarchs guy. No, but in all seriousness, Anna, I think that's exactly how my mind looks at this situation, as far as it just being a not a good fit between head coach and defensive coordinator, which is so important. And we've shown you some of the glowing remarks that Mike McDaniel had for Frank Smith, the Dolphins offensive coordinator. So Mike McDaniel's, it's not like he's this old school coach that's not going to praise his coaches when he deems it necessary. He's obviously a guy that's spoken out about a number of his coaching staff, but those remarks were just never said about Vic Fangio. And I do think there's something to be said about the dynamics of the relationship with Vic Fangio and his players, because I don't think guys like Javon Holland loved Vic Fangio. I don't think Cam Smith loved Vic Fangio. And again, some of this is just taking some of the footage that we saw on Hard Knocks, but to compare the glowing remarks that Mike McDaniel had as a player's coach for his guys, and that just be non-existent for Vic Fangio, I think it's okay to assume that the dynamics of player-to-coach relationship between Fangio and the rest of the defense just wasn't there, or at least wasn't up to the level that it was with other coaches like Mike McDaniel. Even Wes Welker, the wide receivers coach, always joking around with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and you just never saw that from Vic Fangio. At least it was never on any of the episodes of Hard Knocks, or you could even see it as far as some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that we were privy to being able to see. This is from Team E4E Wellness. This has a Brandon Staley smell all over it, plus he refused to play Tyndall or Smith. There you go. And then exactly what I had alluded to, that the second-round pick out of South Carolina, Cam Smith, just never played, which was kind of bizarre, especially when you consider the injuries that were taking place to the secondary. Surely Cam Smith deserved an opportunity to prove himself, and he never got that. Same could be said with Tyndall. I mean, this was a defense that was just ridden with injuries, and Vic Fangio, it's kind of like that coach in maybe like AAU or elementary school or travel ball where they have favorites. Vic Fangio had favorites, and that a lot of that was made with Kader Kohou at the beginning of the season when he was playing a little bit better than he was towards the end of the season. And Vic Fangio loved Kader Kohou, and that's why he was playing the nickel corner spot. Even when Nick Needham was healthy enough to come back, it remained Kader Kohou's job to have at the nickel corner position. But lots to get into. This is what makes it fun. Who's ready to start the video? I know when we go live on Wednesdays, we're not really accustomed to having breaking news, but it just worked out that way. We are live on Dolphins Today with breaking news. Vic Fangio out after just one season. The Miami Dolphins and Vic Fangio mutually parting ways. And that was announced just earlier today, less than an hour ago.
And hit that like button right now. If you're on your cell phone, you can click out of the chat. It's the thumbs up icon. Once we get to about 60 likes, we'll get today's show started. We'll break down everything that you need to know about the Dolphins and Vic Fangio parting ways. But hey, it's an easy, quick way for you to help us out, help get more Dolphins fans in the chat, because we want to reach as many Dolphins fans as we can. So go down and hit that like button. It's completely free. Spam me if you already hit the like button so I know who the real ones are and we can get today's show started, because our bosses say, hey, you want more Dolphins live shows? Show us the numbers. Let's see how many Dolphins fans actually show up. So we want to show them that Dolphins fans are here to stay. Go down and hit the like button, just like Kristen Reinhardt. She's saying me.
She's a real one.
Real one.
No doubt about it.
Ray
She's a real
said,
one.
I smashed it. He also liked the video.
I love that. Nice. I see what you did there, Chuck. We can still have some fun on an Ask Anything live edition of Dolphins Today, like Chugg's always did. Shout out to Lee Underwood, BF Trice, Carlos Gonzalez, Ralph Miller, Orlando Serrano, Kristen Reinhardt, Gerald AI Tails, Brian 35. Who are my Aqua Club members in the chat? If you're in the Aqua Club and you've got yourself tuned in to Dolphins Today, let me know in the chat as well. But my goodness, we're up to 72 likes, and Chugs said we had to get to 60. So, Chugs, I believe we are ready to go. How about everybody else? Are you ready to start today's video? Type me if you are.
All right, here we go. Breaking down the latest news around Vic Fangio, the Dolphins, and who could be the next defensive coordinator? Coming up right now.
Welcome into Dolphins Today. I'm your host, Jake Riepma, and the Miami Dolphins front office deciding to throw a curveball as breaking news have hit the airwaves here on this edition of Dolphins Today, and it is official. Vic Fangio and the Miami Dolphins agreed to mutually part ways after just one season, as Fangio was the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. And among several NFL insiders on this story, Adam Schefter reporting it, saying the Dolphins and Vic Fangio have mutually agreed to part ways. Sources tell me and Jay Fowler, ESPN, Fangio now will be the top target for the Philadelphia Eagles to hire as their defensive coordinator, and a deal is expected. Miami is allowing Fangio to leave to be closer to his family in Pennsylvania. Fangio and the Eagles had an interest in working together in 2023, but the timing didn't work. This time it will. So a lot to unpack for the Miami Dolphins. They're saying see you later to Vic Fangio. Adam Schefter certainly implying that Vic Fangio wanting to get out of Miami after just one season, and that's where you have the term mutually parting ways, and it seems like it's an opportunity for the Dolphins to move forward as an organization, especially on the defensive side, and an opportunity for Vic Fangio to find himself a new home. Obviously, Vic Fangio, one of the most proven defensive minds in all of football. He was a phenomenal defensive coordinator for those great Bears defenses in the latter portion of that 2010 decade that helped him get the head coaching job for the Denver Broncos. And after just one season as the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, he is out and rumored to be heading to Philadelphia. Nothing official on that end yet. But what we do know is Vic Fangio is out as the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. And I need your one-word reaction to the breaking news today. Vic Fangio is out. Give me your one-word reaction to the news. It is our pinned comment of today. One-word reaction from the Vic Fangio news. Now, with that said, I'll admit, I'm shocked. Some people in the comments have said, I saw this coming a mile away. Now, I am, for one, shocked. I didn't see it coming. Hand up. I thought this defense was continuing to progress. And what did we say all season long? Vic Fangio's a big system guy. It takes time to learn his system. As this Dolphins defense continued to improve, I think you saw them go on an upward trajectory to starting to play some of their best football defensively and the back portion of the season. And now I know the season didn't end the way you wanted it to. There's a lot of reasons to point to that. This defense was ridden with injuries all throughout the portion of the season, especially in the back half. But I thought Vic Fangio got his guys to play at a high level, especially on the pass rushing side of things. Miami Dolphins had the third most sacks in the 2023 regular season and the second best sack rate per opponent dropback. So a lot to unpack with that. Let's start with the statement from Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, saying, I want to thank Vic for his contributions in 2023. When we assessed the season, it became apparent that this was the best path forward for all parties involved. Now we turn our focus to 2024 and beyond with urgency as we identify the best candidate to lead our defense moving forward. We remain steadfastly committed to the development of our players and to building a winning team with sustained success. Now, that's kind of the statement I would expect. And as we unpacked Vic Fangio being out as the defensive coordinator, let's go ahead and get the overview on his 1 year in Miami. He'll be leaving the team this offseason. 10th in total defense, the Dolphins finished. So they were one of the better defenses in the NFL, 20th in scoring defense. But I highlighted it early, worth reiterating. Third most sacks, second best sack rate in the NFL. And when you think of why this didn't necessarily work out as Fangio being the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins, I think Mike McDaniel's statement is a little bit telling in the sense that the best path forward for both parties, both Fangio and the Miami Dolphins, was to agree to part ways. And again, that tells me a lot that there might have been some personality clashing. Vic Fangio, not necessarily a player developer as much as he is a proven defensive commodity. It felt like a lot of times Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator was saying, this is my system, it works, now the players need to figure it out how to play my system, as opposed to the player development component that Mike McDaniel alluded to on this one. So coming up, we are going to talk more about the Dolphins and these coaching rumors as they look to replace Vic Fangio. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, America's #1 meal delivery service. And you know that is Factor. I love Factor for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it is delicious. These are ready-to-eat meals that are delivered straight to your door. They only take 2 minutes to heat up. I love me the Chipotle pork chop. It is to die for. Also, the tomato basil chicken. Very, very good. So, it's 2024. Everybody's posting about their New Year's resolutions on the interwebs, on Instagram, or maybe TikTok, whatever it is. I want to take it a step further. Instead of just resolutions, how about making successful choices with your diet? And that's where Factor comes in. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery service takes all the stress and all the annoying tasks out of that equation. So forget grocery shopping, forget the meal prep. You're not going to have 60 different containers that you're stuffing meals into. Forget the dishes. You don't have any dishes to clean up. You just throw it away. All of those elements of convenience help you make successful choices. And I'm telling you, the options are to die for. There's over 35 meals to choose from each week, and that includes options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and so much more. And oh yeah, don't forget about the 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious options. Some of those add-ons, I'm going to give you a little pro tip. the smoothies to die for. Put them in the refrigerator, grab them on your way to work. They are delicious. And that's just scratching the surface. Don't take my word for it. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat to get 50% off. And oh yeah, we love you and we care about you. So that link's going right in the chat and the comments in the description of today's video. All you have to do is click on it. It's factormeals.com/FinsChat50. Now, with Vic Fangio and the Miami Dolphins parting ways, let's start to get those wheels of change in motion. There's a lot of defensive coordinator candidates out there, and we're going to take a deep dive on this as the situation continues to develop. But let's just get the ball rolling a little bit. Some defensive coordinator candidates for the Miami Dolphins to initially start with. There's a lot to choose from. Don't be overwhelmed by the list, but Chris Richard from the New Orleans Saints. Joe Barry was just let go from the Green Bay Packers. Wink Martindale spent the last season with the Giants. They agreed to part ways. And now, this one is interesting. Ejiro Evero from the Carolina Panthers. There's rumors he is in the conversation to be the Panthers' next head coach, as he's done a great job as the defensive coordinator for the Panthers. And if you see him try to pursue the head coaching job for the Panthers, then obviously that is more appealing than moving from Carolina to become the Dolphins defensive coordinator. Anthony Weaver's another guy to keep your eye on. And how about internally? Anthony Campanile, the linebacker coach for the Dolphins. You saw him on Hard Knocks. You saw the players love him. Fire him up with some speeches. He's a guy to keep your eye on as well. The Chiefs defensive line coach, Joe Cohen, another name that is out there to keep your eye on. And I like the bottom portion of this list with ex-head coaches. Brandon Staley, just let go by the Chargers. I should say let go during the season by the Chargers. The Commanders and Ron Rivera parted ways. Obviously, he's a defensive-minded or was a defensive-minded head coach. And the same could be said about Leslie Frazier. So those bottom three on the right side of your screen may be ones to really keep your eye on, especially Brandon Staley, because a little fun fact, he and Mike McDaniel have the same agent. So maybe the initial front runner there. Now, I ask you, who do you want to be the next defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins now that Vic Fangio is out? Let me know down in the comments if you had your wish list, who would the Miami Dolphins hire as their next defensive coordinator? Now, here's the perfect example of why you subscribe. We tell you all the time, if breaking news happens, we have you covered. Well, here's an example of breaking news, and oh yeah, we've got you totally covered from all angles surrounding the Aqua and Orange. And you know what? If you didn't have your notifications on, you might have missed it, but fear not, we've got you covered on Dolphins Today when breaking news happens, like Vic Fangio and the Miami Dolphins parting ways after just one season. Let's continue to break it down, and this from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network, one of the insiders, saying Vic Fangio nearly landed with the Eagles last year, and they currently have a defensive coordinator opening. Meanwhile, former Chargers coach Brandon Staley is available and would be a candidate in Miami. All things to keep in mind when we try to predict the future of where and who will end up where. And again, the Philadelphia tie-in is very intriguing for Vic Fangio, probably given that his family lives in Pennsylvania. And meanwhile, when you combine that with the clashing or potential clashing of personalities with Mike McDaniel, it makes a lot of sense. And as we continue to run through some of the rumors and reports out there from the NFL insiders, Diana Rossini, another one that has shared on Twitter, Miami's Mike McDaniel and Brandon Staley both have the same agent who also represents Ben Johnson. So, maybe it's just, instead of the hit popular show Wife Swap, it's defensive coordinator swap. The Dolphins will take Ben Johnson, and the Eagles can take Vic Fangio, and we'll see how the chips fall. No, I kid, but it would be really interesting if Vic Fangio goes to Philadelphia and Ben Johnson comes to the Miami Dolphins. Now, with Vic Fangio being out as the defensive coordinator, remember, it's his first season as the Dolphins defensive, or as the defensive coordinator for Miami, leaving the team this offseason after they mutually agreed to part ways. And the Dolphins had a pretty good season on the defensive side of things. They got better every game, especially when Jalen Ramsey joined the squad after injury. They just became so much more potent of a defense. And ultimately, the defensive line was where they really built the strength of this defense. Third most sacks in the NFL and the second best sack rate overall per opponent's drop back. So a lot to unpack, a lot to make of this, whether it be heads or tails. Do you like Vic Fangio? Do you wish he was staying in Miami? It sounds like he had one foot out the door, and Mike McDaniel held that door open for him and said, don't let it hit you on the way out. But I think both sides kept it respectful. That statement from Mike McDaniel, I think, says a lot about where both teams were at. And maybe this is an example where both sides can kind of reset and look to make their best path forward when you consider Miami will now have the opportunity to hire a new defensive coordinator, and Vic Fangio will have the opportunity to pursue other options. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and as always, subscribe to the channel because when breaking news happens, we have you covered. Now, coming up tomorrow, we are going to break down a further deep dive of potential defensive coordinator replacements. We gave you some names to keep some eyes on, but you know all of us here at Dolphins Today will be hard at work to really bring you that deep dive and that detailed search of what that will look like. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned in to all things Aqua and Orange as the Miami Dolphins have just made their biggest move of the 2024 offseason so far in agreeing to part ways with defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Who will be the next defensive coordinator? Well, keep it right here. Subscribe to the channel, and as soon as we know, you'll know. Woo! Whoa, look what we have there. Jeremy Chuggs. We should have had the defensive coordinator part ways a while ago because we got a super chat from Gerald Stokes. How about that, Gerald? How are we today? He says, disappointed is my only word. You know, Gerald, I will give you this. When the very first second, you feel that initial reaction when you read the news, my heart did sink a little bit. I thought, this defense was getting better every week. They were adapting to the system. They were obviously hurt by the injury bug, but the players out there were making plays. The defense had become the strength of the team in the back portion of the season. But then the more you unpack it, you start to peel off the layers of the onion. You see that Vic Fangio wanted to be the defensive coordinator for the Eagles in 2022, or leading up to the 2023 season, I should say, and now he has the opportunity to do so. It seemed like he had one foot out the door. You don't want a guy that's not fully invested.
No. And I mean, like you said, it's a team sport. Not only the players, but the coaching staff have to work together as a team. If there's not fluidity, if there's not a good rapport amongst your coaching staff, if everybody's not on the same page, it's not a good look for your players because the players are looking to this coaching staff for guidance and what to do on a game-by-game, play-by-play basis. And if there's infighting, if there's not continuity between your coaching staff, it's not a good look at all. So if at the end of the year, if in that playoff game there wasn't that continuity between Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio, one has to go. And one is your head coach and one is a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I also find it, and I'm not condoning this because I kind of hate I think it's called subtweeting or the pointed tweets that don't actually name anyone by names. But Javon Holland, as soon as he saw the news, posted a video of it's like a 5-second video. Remember Vine? It was like a Vine. It was just him kicking these little rocks. And so obviously he's saying kick rocks to Vic Fangio, which, again, I don't condone the subtweeting, but I think it's telling exactly what you just alluded to, Chuggs, is the fact that there wasn't that cohesiveness amongst the defense like there was what seemed like the rest of the team, especially on offense with Frank Smith, Mike McDaniel, and the rest of the offensive weapons. So you got Javon Holland posting a video of kicking rocks. I mean, that tells you a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that might make some sense if Fangio's heart wasn't in Miami and he just took the job this past season just to have a job, which, I mean, not gonna beat the guy down for it. Like, everybody needs to have a job at some point. You need to, be able to provide for your family. But if you don't like your job, if you hate your job, you're not going to be as good at a job if you're not into it, if you're not liking what you're doing. So obviously, it seemed like his heart was more in Philadelphia. And as soon as the news came that they are getting rid of their defensive coordinators, I wonder if Vic Fangio went to Mike McDaniel, went to this front office and said, hey, I'm not enjoying my time here. I don't want to be here. Can we just work something out where I can go? Because I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Rather be with another team. And you don't want me calling your plays if I don't want to be here.
That's a great point. I do think, sometimes we joke about, I don't love Colin Cowherd, but we joke about some of his takes, and he's big on the pro-mobility. Sometimes situations, circumstances change that being mobile makes sense. It made sense for the Dolphins to move on. It makes sense if Vic Fangio wants to be in Pennsylvania, wants to be coaching for the Eagles, and they get rid of their defensive coordinator. Now he has an opportunity to do so. You only hope it be a win-win for everybody involved. And I mean, I don't care about the Eagles, but I do care that the Dolphins now have a chance to get this defensive coordinator hire right. And as we showed you on that last cut, there's a lot of appealing candidates out there. And especially for me, Brandon Staley, that makes a lot of sense. And I know he didn't really cut it as the head coach for the Chargers, but the guy knows ball defensively for sure.
So I wanted to ask this question because obviously now it's going to be coming down to the Dolphins front office, maybe Mike McDaniel as well, having his foot in the, who's going to be the next DC. But what is your confidence level that this front office, that this team is going to get this next hire right? One, you have no confidence at all. You're like, we're going to get it wrong again. We're going to hire another scrub, and the defense is going to, lose in crunch time. 10, you think that they're going to hire the best DC for next year, and this Dolphins defense is going to be top 3, if not number 1, next season.
Yeah.
Where do you sit?
Let me know. Let me know down in the comments. And I love reading everybody's comments because sometimes you learn a lot. You learn that, hey, maybe I don't feel so good about this Dolphins front office, or maybe I do believe in Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel and what they're building. But I've seen a lot of negativity directed towards Chris Grier, but it's been more on the player personnel side. So I'm curious how the Dolphins Today community feels about the coaching personnel. I see a couple
10s
side.
from SoFlo Soul, Brian, Tyson. Joseph Boros said a solid 4, which that's not a vote of confidence. If you tell your girlfriend, how hot am I? You're a solid 4.
Solid 4, babe. Hey, but I said solid, so it's better than being like just kind of a mediocre 4, like solid 4.
No, I said you're hot for being a 4.
I saw one comment, never should have let Dan Campbell go, and I mean, that's a great point. Look what he's doing in Detroit, or what he's done in Detroit. That's a colossal loser of a franchise over the course of more than 30 years, and all of a sudden Dan Campbell has them playing for an NFC North title on Sunday. And remember, he was the interim head coach for the Dolphins not too long ago.
Yeah. Diego says a 5. We have a lot of people saying Belichick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think his ego is way too high to ever be a coordinator in the NFL.
Well, I think it would be fun because I heard I don't remember who it was, a talking head joke that Belichick probably knows the opponents in the AFC East better than he knows the actual Patriots because of how hard he studied. And I think that's probably true. So he probably knows the Dolphins better than just about anybody for all the years being in the AFC East, but he's not going to be a DC.
If that were to happen, though.
Yeah, look out.
I mean, he's been the leader of the ship for so long. I don't think his ego would allow it, because going from, best head coach of all time to now you're a DC, that'd be like Tom Landry or Lombardi being a DC. Mm-hmm. After you've been to the mountaintop and after you've been considered the best in the league, it's really hard to humble yourself and say, hey, it's like...
It'd be like being CEO going down to being a director or something. Organizationally, it would be tough.
Yeah. You're the manager at McDonald's, and now you're the fry cook.
Great analogy, Chugs. Great analogy. I do think Anthony Campanile, the linebackers coach, might be a serious candidate internally if you're going to promote from within, because McDaniel's a huge culture guy. You saw it in Hard Knocks. in that one episode of Hard Knocks. I don't know if it was the third or fourth. It was sometime in the middle. But his motivational tactics, getting not just the linebackers, not just the defense, but the entire team fired up in one of their team meetings was pretty inspiring stuff. And again, I think it fits that mold, the cohesiveness, the chemistry that Mike McDaniel aspires to bring as the head coach of this Dolphins team.
Honestly, I mean, Fangio did a great job as the DC this past year. And I mean, when you look at the playoff game, they were down their top 2 edge rushers, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, Andrew Van Ginkel as well. And they were signing guys off the street that week. Remember they signed Justin Houston on Tuesday, and Malik Reed was signed, and not too long ago, Melvin Ingram a couple weeks prior.
And how many snaps did those guys get?
Yeah, they were playing a lot. And the other part of that is their red zone defense was really good against the Chiefs, because the final of that game was 26-7. It could very easily have been 42-7, but the Dolphins held strong in the red zone a couple of times. And again, that's a skeleton crew that was dealing with tons of injuries. Safeties as well. Javon Holland didn't play in that game. And obviously Jalen Ramsey missed the front portion of the season. Xavier Howard did not play in that playoff game. He's an important piece in the secondary. So I do agree that this Dolphins defense Vic Fangio got the most out of this Dolphins defense despite some of the injuries and some of the roadblocks he had to overcome.
And I just have one more question, because I think this is really now indicative of where we see the Dolphins going into this next season and beyond. Is Mike McDaniel on the hot seat?
Ooh, I do think when you enter year 3, that becomes a very, very telling season, because in a lot of ways you get a year, then you start to build on that first year, and then after 2 years, when you get into year 3 of a tenure, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is my team. This is my system. This is our organization. We've had a couple of draft classes. We've had the opportunity to gel on all aspects. So I do think this is a make or break it year for Mike McDaniel. Now, what I will say, he's bought himself maybe the opportunity to get the benefit of the doubt, considering he made the playoffs in his first 2 seasons. But
I mean, so did Brian Flores.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yes, he made the playoffs, but in both seasons they limped into the playoffs, did not finish the season strong.
For people saying Brian Flores for DC, no chance.
Yeah, he hates the Dolphins.
Like, I would think he would rather be a special teams coordinator or a defensive quality control coach somewhere else than be the Dolphins DC.
Yeah, I won't even, usually we'll entertain just about any crazy thought, but sorry, as Nick Saban would say, it ain't happening, so quit asking, all right?
Doesn't time heal all wounds?
Nah. Speaking of hated coaches, Nick Saban, that's another one. The Dolphins hate him.
DC Nick Saban.
Yeah. There's no chance.
There's no doubt.
He is retired. He is retired. But let me know down in the comments, is Mike McDaniel on the hot seat now?
Ingenuity says Mike still has 3 to 5 years. I don't think you've been watching the NFL these past 5 seasons because coaches have been going out like that. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles have a guy who's on the hot seat who made the Super Bowl last season. They fired a coach that won a Super Bowl 2 years after he won the Super Bowl.
That's a great point. I mean, look at Brandon Staley. He made the playoffs last year, fired from the Chargers this year. That's not the best example, but the timetable is quicker and quicker and quicker, and especially when you consider that this Dolphins team currently has the longest active postseason winless streak. So no team has gone as long as the Miami Dolphins have without winning a postseason game. And again, I know someone brought up Dan Campbell in the chat because he was the interim head coach for the Dolphins. Look what he did in year 3. Again, that magic year 3. I'm not saying Mike McDaniel has to get the Dolphins to the AFC Championship to keep his job, but look what Dan Campbell did in year 3 with the Lions. They're in the NFC Championship game.
For Mike McDaniel to stay as the head coach next year, barring injury, like obviously if anything happens to like Tua or major players, that might play a factor. But if you're healthy at the end of the year, you need to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You need to win a playoff game. And you have to, if you do lose in the playoffs, it be a close loss.
Right. That, as much as I hate to say, like, we quantify losses, some are better than others. Like, at the end of the day, you win or lose. There is something to be said about the way you lose, and if, in fact, it's a more respectable way to go out than – and I think this year is kind of, unfortunately, an anomaly just because there are so many injuries. It's hard to hold that against the coaching staff when you're down 9 starters on defense. But offensively, they really –
You put up 6.
Bottomed out.
You put up 6 against the Chiefs.
Yep.
So –
yeah, there was a lot of question marks, and we've showed you that graphic before, but just the crucial splits on this Dolphins offense this past season versus teams with winning record than with teams with losing record. It's more than a touchdown a game, ultimately, which is crazy.
And see, Brian, the thing is, you won't be able to get Harbaugh next year because he's going to be the head coach of most likely the Chargers.
Yeah, he's either going to be the head coach of an NFL team or on a fat, lengthy, probably one of those deal for life, like lifetime achievement awards with Michigan.
You can be on tenure.
Yes. Like those professors that you used to have in college that were like, I'm tenured, I can do whatever I want. That always made me feel really good.
Yeah, Brian, it's just I don't see a possible way that you can get Jim Harbaugh next year. Like, you'd have to fire Mike McDaniel right now and immediately hire Jim Harbaugh if you want him to be your head coach.
Yeah, again, that one ain't happening.
Which that would be even more wild.
No doubt.
Or what if Mike McDaniel just moved to OC? Hey, we're not going to fire you. We're just going to give you a huge demotion. Is that cool?
Yeah. Hey, whatever's best for the team, right?
You said it on Hard Knocks. You said it. I didn't say it. You said it.
He did say he wasn't opposed to the idea, he being Mike McDaniel, of giving up play calling duties if that would help the team. I don't think he really meant it. I think he was asked, would you give up play calling duties? And he essentially constructed a political answer of whatever will help the team, which, again, I don't blame
Babe, I'll change if you want me to. Yes, can you please change? You really want me to change? Are you serious? I thought
you don't love me as I am?
Wow.
Oh, that's too funny.
Really shows you.
All right. Shout out to everybody in the chat. It's good to get the blood pumping, the juices flowing with some breaking news on a Wednesday.
We actually have going from DC to now we're going to be talking a little bit about the OC.
Oh, my. Chugs, we couldn't have drawn it up any better. That's right, because Dolphins rumors, despite there being breaking news today, there are some rumors that are still hot.
I'm feeling hot.
Feeling hot. That's such a great line.
They say, yeah, man.
You are not as much fun as your Jamaican brother, Stanley. The Office. That's for all the Office fans.
And just a reminder, we're going to do this next segment about the latest news and rumors. And then after that, we're going to be doing a live mailbag. So use hashtag Dolphins in the comments section. Just hashtag Dolphins and then whatever you want to say after that. So I'm able to put it up on screen like I have a couple times already right here. And we'll be able to get you up on screen. You can ask anything, or if you want to make sure that you get on the channel and maybe donate to the channel a little bit, you can super chat just like Gerald Stokes did. If somebody sends in 100, I'll go ahead and do a beer boot.
Whoa, a beer boot to welcome, or say goodbye, I should say, to Vic Fangio and welcome our future DC. I love it.
Goodbye, Fangio. It's been nice.
Hope you find your paradise. Vic is going away. Vic is going away.
Vic Fangio is going away.
See ya.
But yeah, use hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat to get on the show. If you need an example like, Jeremy, what are you even talking about? Brian35 put a nice example in there of using hashtag Dolphins. So if you have a statement, a comment, a question, anything that you want out in Dolphins universe, go ahead and use hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat. I'll put you up here on the show after this next segment. And don't forget to like the video.
Yes, like that video. We're up to 115. How about that, sports fans? Love you guys. But yeah, we got more segments to do. Let's do it.
All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking about the OC.
The OC.
Here we go. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, 2 claps. There we go. Here we go. Next segment on Dolphins Today.
Dolphins Today starts right now. And just on the brink of the breaking news with Vic Fangio, we turn our attention to the offensive side of the ball because rumors are hot. Frank Smith, the Dolphins Offensive Coordinator, is the odds-on favorite to be the next head coach for the Carolina Panthers. per multiple sports books, depending on where you do your shopping. The point being, he is in the heat of the discussion of the offensive coordinator right now for the Miami Dolphins to becoming the Carolina Panthers' next head coach. So let's break it down a step further. Here are the latest odds to be the Panthers' next head coach. And at the top of the list, you see Frank Smith, plus 420. Now, depending on how you calculate, there's no perfect equation from odds to percent chance, but I would say plus 420, anywhere between about a 15 to 20% chance. Certainly not a lot. Mike McDaniel, the Ravens defensive coordinator, right behind him at plus 500. And then the Ravens offensive coordinator, and obviously the Ravens playing for an AFC championship have a very, very good coaching staff. Todd Monken at plus 700. And an internal candidate here for the Panthers to consider, Ejiro Evero, who is the Panthers defensive coordinator. It would be a promotion from within if they so choose to go that way. Now, Ben Johnson towards the bottom there at plus 1,200. He's the Lions offensive coordinator, which is kind of interesting to me because when you think about some of the hottest names on the NFL head coaching list, Ben Johnson's certainly tied to a lot of rumors, but just doesn't seem to be in Carolina that his next destination will be. All right, let me know what you think down in the comments. What chance do you give Frank Smith to be the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers? And we're gonna go percentage here. So 1 through 100, you got to let me know. The odds would suggest it's between a 15 to 20% chance, but maybe you've got a better answer. Let me know down in the comments. And there's a lot of reasons why Frank Smith is being considered as a head coaching candidate for the Carolina Panthers, because he helped orchestrate one of the best offenses in the National Football League. And I know you can say they're statistical outliers, and when it mattered the most, this Dolphins offense wasn't good. But in the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of general managers, a lot of owners that look at today's NFL and say, how do we win? Well, of course, it's with the brilliant offensive-minded individual, and Frank Smith certainly checks that box. He led the Dolphins, or helped lead the Dolphins, to the number one total offense and the second best scoring offense in the NFL. So say what you will about statistical outliers. At the end of the day, Frank Smith is going to get all kinds of head coaching consideration given his track record and what the Dolphins offense have done the last 2 years with Mike McDaniel as the head coach and then, of course, Frank Smith working under him as the offensive coordinator. It also helps when the head coach of your organization has glowing remarks for you as a coordinator, and that's exactly what Mike McDaniel told The Athletic earlier this season about Frank Smith, saying he has a thorough understanding of the game and is a great teacher, which is really what coaching is all about. He also has a unique ability to anticipate problems before they arise, be that on the field or in administrative type things related to schedules, questions that will come up with players or coaches, etc. McDaniel went on to say he operates on a daily basis with a passion, positivity, and humility that is rare and sets him apart. It's hard for me to summarize the positive impact Frank has had on our team, our coaching staff, and especially in supporting me as a head coach. So when you think about candidates that deserve all kinds of consideration and you read those quotes from Mike McDaniel, Frank Smith certainly checks that box. But let's look at this Panthers coaching search from the Carolina perspective. They fired their head coach Frank Reich mid-season, and obviously things did not go well for the Panthers in any way. And a lot was made about drafting Bryce Young with that number one overall pick last year, and he really hasn't performed well. Furthermore, I think these are some really serious red flags that have come up throughout the course of the season for the Panthers. Their owner, David Tepper, known as a hothead, a tough person to work for, and so much to the point that late in the season, in a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tepper threw his drink on an opposing fan. Are you kidding me? The owner of the team threw his drink on a fan. That's crazy. The NFL fined him $300,000 for that. But again, all kinds of dysfunction within the Panthers organization. They're also parting ways with Vice President of Football Administration, Samir Suleiman. So, a lot of turnover, a lot of moving parts with an organization that certainly is not clicking in any capacity. And maybe you would argue this is rock bottom, so whoever the next head coach is can only go up from here. But that said, there's a lot of things to consider. And if I'm Frank Smith or I'm any of these candidates, I'm thinking in my head, do I really want this Panthers job? I mean, you got the owner throwing a drink on an opposing fan. That's the guy that's going to be signing your paychecks. That would make me a little bit nervous. And maybe being the offensive coordinator in Miami is better than being the head coach for a dysfunctional organization like the Carolina Panthers. But I need your help in deciding what you think happens with Frank Smith. Let me know down in the comments, where do you think Frank Smith will be in 2024? If you think it's a head coach, probably with the Carolina Panthers, type HC. If you think it's OC, and he'll remain the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, go ahead and type OC in the comments. Either way, I want to hear from you. Now, coming up, we're going to talk and shift from the coaching side of things to the player side of things. Andrew Van Ginkel, one of the major pending free agents for the Miami Dolphins that the Aqua and Orange will need to re-sign. We'll discuss all layers in that process. But first, I want to tell you about today's presenting sponsor, Factor, which is America's #1 meal delivery service. And as we turn the calendar into 2024, the resolutions are here, and Factor is here to help. There is no doubt about it, because Factor sets you up for success. If you take nothing away, take that. Factor sets you up with success. They're here to help you get started on your resolutions so that you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready to eat fresh, never frozen meals. Take the stress out of meal planning, and oh yeah, they set you up for success in the new year. So if you're like me, probably what I hate the most in life is grocery shopping. And if I can find a way to skip the grocery shopping, I'm all in. And oh yeah, by the way, their meal options are delicious. You've got over 55 weekly add-ons in addition to the meals, over 35 meals a week to choose from. Options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and so much more. I'm telling you, with Factor, you'll have a ton of nutritious options and flavorful options to help kickstart those resolutions. So head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. And just in case I stuttered, I'll tell you again, we're talking 50% off, people. That's half off. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50. That's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 for 50% off. And what do I always tell you? We love you and we care about you, so we'll put that link right in the comments and description of today's video. It's that easy. factormeals.com/FinsChat50. Now, Andrew Van Ginkel kind of burst onto the scene this year and became really an elite edge rusher. And now that he's a free agent, he has publicly said he wants to remain a Miami Dolphin. Now, we showed you this list earlier this offseason, but it's worth bringing back up. Some of the most notable pending free agents for the Dolphins in 2024 that are in need of a new contract. And look who I've highlighted there at the top of the list. And again, it's a long list. Andrew Van Ginkel. That's one you circle in red. Jerome Baker, Christian Wilkins, Connor Williams. You could make the case that they are also equally as important to the success of the Miami Dolphins. And then the next tier, I'd say, would be Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios. And then offensive line played very important. So Rob Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, both of them there. And then towards the bottom, Deshaun Elliott did play good as a safety. Nick Needham, I think, is on his way out. Now, that said, Andrew Van Ginkel at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and say he is among the most important free agents to re-sign with the Dolphins. If I were to put together a top 3 list, he would be on that list. In fact, he might even be #1, especially #1 on the defense. Because you look at the production from Andrew Van Ginkel. And when Jalen Phillips went down with that injury against the Jets, that blown out Achilles, Andrew Van Ginkel raised his level of play. And in 17 games, I know he didn't play in that wild card game against the Chiefs. He was injured in Week 18 against the Bills. But 17 games, durable, and showed the productivity. He had that interception that he took all the way back to the house against Washington. 6 sacks, but he was also known for just getting pressure at all times. Had a lot of quarterback hurries as well. And what do I always tell you about Pro Football Focus? It's a great benchmark. It's not the only way to evaluate players, but it certainly is telling. And Andrew Van Ginkel is a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus rankings. In fact, he graded out as the 8th best edge rusher by Pro Football Focus with a 91.1 overall grade. And when you look at the top 10 edge players per Pro Football Focus, There are some freaking names on this list, and Andrew Van Ginkel is among some of the most elite players in all of football, not just as an edge player. But look at these names: Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, T.J. Watt, Khalil Mack, Aiden Hutchinson, and then Andrew Van Ginkel right there as the 8th best edge rusher per Pro Football Focus, and that puts him ahead of elite players like DeMarcus Lawrence and Alex Highsmith as well. Now, what does the agent have to say on all of these contract negotiations? Drew Rosenhaus, a very well-known agent in the NFL, the same agent as Jerome Baker as well. His quote recently was, "The latest with Andrews, we feel good about the season that he had." Well, he should. He had a great season. He went on to say he's going to be ready to go for the offseason. "We're excited about the possibility of him coming back to the Dolphins, although he's a free agent. So anything's possible, but he'd like to come back and was a great fit in Vic Fangio's scheme." Now, we know that ship has sailed. However, AVG's agent did go on to say, we'll just have to see as we get closer to March 13th, which is the first day of free agency. And there's a lot to kind of pick out from that. And I love the agent talk because as a player or as an agent that's representing the player and Drew Rosenhaus representing AVG, he's got to say, I like this, but, and then throw in the caveat there. So he threw in AVG wants to be a Dolphin, but anything can happen. So I guess we'll do the same here on Dolphins Today. We want AVG back, but anything can happen. Let me know. Call your shot on this one. Do you want the Dolphins to sign AVG? Type Y for yes or N for no. It's a resounding yes for me. Now, anytime you start to talk free agency and kind of the double-edged sword that goes with excellent performance on the field is the contract talk. So we showed you the people that, or the company that Andrew Van Ginkel is among, just given his Pro Football Focus ranking. Guys like Nick Bosa, T.J. Watt, Khalil Mack. Now, see, these are some of the highest paid players. In fact, Nick Bosa is the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. So I'm certainly not suggesting AVG deserves 5 years, $170 million. And I don't think he's on the level of TJ Watt yet either, who had a 4-year, $112 million contract. And when Khalil Mack, this was back when he was for the Bears, signed that 6-year, $141 million deal, he was at the top of his game as well. So I don't think AVG will quite yield that type of contract. But again, just to give you some perspective of what that contract offer might have to look like, coupled with the fact that Drew Rosenhaus is known for getting his guys paid. So if the Dolphins want to invest in AVG, which I think would be a wise investment, I think it will cost a little bit. And we know about the Dolphins' cap situation. Not great. In fact, it's the second worst in the NFL. But I'll summarize it like this. As you see, I'll say it again. AVG has earned himself a big deal, and I hope this Dolphins front office is able to get it done. Want to remind you to hit that subscribe button because all this content, all this Dolphins talk is free. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel. We bring you Dolphins content every day. We bring you live shows, and when breaking news happens, we have you covered. That's why you subscribe to the channel. And as always, you can do so for free. Give it a try. If you don't love it, unsubscribe. It'll break my heart, but I'm telling you, you're going to love it because when Vic Fangio and the Dolphins part ways, we've got you covered. When AVG signs a big deal, maybe he will, we've got you covered. Anyways, subscribe to the channel as always at youtube.com/DolphinsNews. All right, Chugs.
There we go.
Yeah, Chugs. Woo. That was good
How
stuff
we feeling?
right there. It's been a whirlwind of a couple of hours here, that's for sure. We got Vic Fangio leaving. We got AVG needing a new deal. We've got Frank Smith, the odds-on favorite to be the Carolina Panthers' next head coach. There's a lot. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Once you say.
And we have one more thing that we got to do before we head out. And a reminder to use #Dolphins or Super Chat to get on the show. If you're just joining us, the breaking news, Dolphins DC Vic Fangio leaving the team, mutually parting ways with the Dolphins.
They said, see ya, and he said, no, see ya.
It's like You're like, yeah, me and my girl broke up. Like, who broke up with who? Be like, oh, yeah, I definitely dumped her. I dumped that bee.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, she's telling all her friends, I just couldn't take him anymore, and I had to break up with him.
I just didn't see myself with him in 10 years.
He wasn't invested. He didn't make me a better me.
Thinking about me in the future with like a latte next to a fire.
I have to do what's best for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I just can't. Go down and use hashtag Dolphins, super chat to get on the show. I know Brian sent in some hashtag Dolphins. Some more people have in the past. I think we have enough to get the show going, but if you have a really good question, I might put you ahead of somebody if you use hashtag Dolphins. So go down, use hashtag Dolphins, or you could super chat, help feed my dog Sadie.
All super chats go towards Jeremy Chuggs' dog. Not actually. They all go to Dolphins Today and helping us keep the lights on here.
Yeah, and my dog. If you need proof, here's my dog.
I would love to see it.
Hold on, wait. She has her own Instagram. Follow her, Sadie_the_golden pup.
Ooh.
This is my baby.
Golden Doodle?
Golden Doodle.
Those are the best. They don't shed.
Hypoallergenic.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's
right
her
there.
chilling at the window. She just rolled down the window. So
How
she's chilling.
much is that doggy in the window?
This is her at her 3rd birthday. It was a hula themed.
Oh, wow. I love dogs. For whatever reason, they'll bring out the worst in dogs. I had a dog in my building yesterday morning as I'm minding my own business, just walking. I must have walked too suddenly. Its ears perked up and it went, "Arr!" And I was like, oh, sorry. And then he just kind of waved, and I was like, I'm just here.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get into this Dolphins mailbag. Hopefully, no dogs in the chat. But you can get on the show.
I got that dog in me.
Oh.
How many dogs in the house? Oh.
Where my big dogs at? If you're a puppy, you can leave pissing on the porch.
Let the big dog eat. Remember that, I think it was the Coastal Carolina coach was like, we need some more dogs. We got a bunch of cats in here. Meow. We need some more dogs. I don't want any of those cats. Meow.
Yeah.
All right. How's everybody feeling in the chat? Good?
Yeah, Jalen Waddle's here.
No way. Hi, Jalen Waddle.
He's not too happy about the Fangio news. So.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, he was super pissed.
I wonder if any Dolphins players will come out in support of Vic Fangio. I've seen this video, Chuggs. I don't think you've seen this video yet of Javon Holland. He posted it of just him kicking rocks. I don't think Javon Holland liked Vic Fangio. And yes, Vic Fangio is the one that wanted to go. That's when you get the mutual parting of the ways.
Yeah, I can tell you who else didn't like Fangio. Cam Smith and Channing Tindall.
Cam Smith, though, was quoted as saying he liked him, but you know who didn't like Cam Smith? Vic Fangio.
Yeah. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
There
Cam
you
Smith.
go. All right. Should we do it? We should.
I think we should.
And Ask Anything mailbag coming your way. It's an Ask Anything mailbag on Dolphins Today, and there are plenty of questions to get going with because, oh, yes, the offseason, but lots have happened, including the Dolphins agreeing to part ways and mutually agreeing to part ways with former defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Obviously, that's on everyone's mind, but nothing is off limits on these Ask Anything mailbags. So without further ado, let's get it going. Our first question from Brian35 using the hashtag Dolphins. And I should have said you can super chat to skip the line as well. But Brian asks, do you want to promote Bevel as OC and let Mike step away from play calling? Love this question because it was asked to Mike McDaniel, and we're shifting now from defense coordinator to offensive coordinator. So we're on the offensive side of the ball, but in the initial offseason press conference by Chris Greer, the general manager, and Mike McDaniel, someone did ask Mike McDaniel if he'd be willing to give up play calling duties, and he gave a very political answer, I thought. He didn't come right out and say, no, I'm the play caller of this team. And he didn't say, yeah, absolutely. The way he phrased it was essentially, we're about winning. We're about evaluating our process that leads us to winning. Whatever we can do to help us win, I'm in favor of. And so, again, take with that what you will, but I don't think he's saying he's going to give up play calling duties, but he didn't shut it down either. As far as Darrell Bevell, he was a really good play caller for the Lions when he was the offensive coordinator there a couple of years ago. So he does have some play calling experience. But if Mike McDaniel if he was to give up play calling duties, I think Frank Smith would be next in line as the offensive coordinator for now. Now, again, we just talked about Frank Smith being a candidate for the head coaching job with the Panthers. So then it would be Bevell. But I don't think Mike McDaniel is going to hand over the play calling duties in general, let alone to his quarterback coach in Darrell Bevell. This one from Sherry May. There are individuals in chat suggesting Fins hire Belichick. May I state that for the record, I loathe, detest, and despise that coach. Worse than I hate Saban. Wow. Oh my goodness. Remember your Dolphins history. Great reminder from Sherry May. I did see people suggesting that maybe the Dolphins make an offer for Bill Belichick to be their defensive coordinator, but I don't think Bill Belichick, arguably the most decorated coach in NFL history, obviously behind Don Shula, he's number one, he's our guy. But that said, the best coach of this generation, Bill Belichick, in this era of football, is not going to step down and be a defensive coordinator somewhere. He's interviewing for head coaching jobs. He's got he interviewed for the Falcons head coaching job. I think it's either a head coaching job for Belichick or retirement. I mean, the guy's getting up there. And in fact, if I were Belichick, just go play golf. Go hang out on the beach. You have nothing left to prove. And I certainly don't think he's going to take a step down from head coach to defensive coordinator. So I don't think there's anything to worry about there, Sherry May. And a super chat from Sherry May. Shout out to the Mailbag. Appreciate the support of Sherry May. That's why she's one of the realest of the real. She is the realest of the real on Dolphins Today. We love you, Sherry May. Thanks for the super chat. From Patrick Starr. Saw a Bleacher Report list Tua as the sixth best quarterback under 25 years old. When will the Tua hate stop? That's a great question, Patrick Starr. Listen, I get teased by some of my colleagues here at Chat Sports that I'm the biggest Tua fan and that I do a Tua show every single week. And you know what? Sometimes you have to send that message home because I do believe you can win with Tua Tagovailoa. I believe there's a lot of credible talking heads in the National Football League that also think you can win with Tua Tagovailoa. He possesses the ability to be an upper echelon quarterback in the National Football League. Is he John Elway? Is he Joe Montana? No. Is he the top five? Probably not. But again, the Bleacher Report article, I saw the exact same one. Sixth best quarterback under 25 years old. Here's what I'll say about Tua Tagovailoa. Led the NFL in passing yards. That doesn't happen by accident. Had arguably one of his best seasons. Stayed healthy all season long and helped orchestrate the number one total offense in the NFL. And I know statistical outlier, 1-6 versus teams with a winning record. I hear all that. But let's not shut the door on Tua Tagovailoa. I think there's still more gas in the tank for number one in the field, number one in my heart, Tua Tagovailoa. I want you, though, to rank Tua among other NFL quarterbacks. Where does he stack up? I have him in the upper echelon. I think his win-loss record is certainly something to make note of. It's better than a lot of guys like Justin Herbert, for one to be exact. And the injury bug that had plagued him prior was nowhere to be found this season. And you can't say the same about guys like Joe Burrow and all of the quarterbacks that were hurt this season. Deshaun Watson, the list goes on. And I'm not here saying if you get hurt, then you're a bad quarterback, but something should be said of the durability that Tua showed this season. And again, 11 wins for the Dolphins this season in the playoffs. Obviously ran out of gas, lost a lot of guys on defense, and the offense could have played better. But let me know where you rank Tua among NFL quarterbacks. This one from Anthony Manzano, a.k.a. hashtag Mob. How about Jim Leonard, the DC at Wisconsin? He has NFL experience. He was a DC for the Vikings when they made the NFC Championship with Brett Favre. That is a name that we put on our initial defensive coordinator search list. However, I don't think Jim Leonard is the type of hire that moves the needle. And I'm not saying that's what constitutes a good hire, whether or not it moves the needle. But I don't know what Jim Leonhard can bring to the table that some of these other potential DC candidates can't bring to the table. You look at a guy like Brandon Staley. I think he's got to be the leader in the clubhouse when you consider he has the same agent as Mike McDaniel. He has head coaching experience, but he's made his money as a defensive guy. And what an opportunity for him to hit the ground running after being fired by the Chargers and to become a defensive coordinator. And I think internally you have a great candidate with Anthony Campanile, the linebackers coach, who, again, I hate to always go back to Hard Knocks, but you look at the way he interacted with his guys, the way he motivated the team, I think he's somebody to keep the eye on as well. And promoting from within, I think, is good mojo for the organization as a whole. There's a level of familiarity there. There's obviously the knowledge of the organization, the knowledge of the current system, not a lot of change that would be needed as far as the adjustments, less of a learning curve, and so on and so forth. So I think promoting from within makes a lot of sense as well. This question from Every Noodle: how does Ron Rivera and Robert Saleh sound as DC? They both sound excellent. As far as I know, Robert Saleh is still the head coach for the Jets. So unless you know something I don't think he's going to leave a head coaching job to be a DC. But Ron Rivera was just let go by the Commanders. And you talk about a proven guy in the NFL, took the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl, and then didn't necessarily have the best tenure in Washington. But Riverboat Ron is respected among all NFL circles. And I think that would be a big name that makes a lot of sense when you combined Ron Rivera with Mike McDaniel. Although, here's what I will say is maybe a little bit of a caveat, or just, if nothing else, a different perspective to think of. Ron Rivera, also very much an old school football guy, just like Vic Fangio was, and there's a lot of speculation that was part of the root of the lack of cohesiveness between Mike McDaniel as the head coach, as a new school guy, and as an old school guy, Vic Fangio, who, again, say what you will about Vic Fangio, say what you will about Mike McDaniel, you can certainly conclude that they have drastically different personas, drastically different styles, and sometimes opposites don't always attract, and there's a lot of lack of cohesiveness, a lot of disconnect that was on display from the Dolphins defense in comparison to the way Mike McDaniel and some of the younger guys on the offensive staff interacted with the players. Want to thank Fanatics for helping make today's show possible. And I'm telling you what, it might be the offseason, guys, but it's never the wrong time to stock up on some Miami Dolphins swag. And we've got a special link for you. We'll leave it in the comments and description of today's video. And I was browsing on the Fanatics site. I showed you some of the hats earlier last week. I like the hats, but you can't go wrong with some of the NFL Jam graphic tees. I'm telling you guys, these are timeless. There's also a Dan Marino one that I absolutely love. Oh, right on cue. Look at that. The Dan Marino one, as we talk quarterbacks here on Dolphins Today, you can't talk Dolphins quarterbacks without Dan Marino. Make sure you pick up one of these NFL Jam graphic tees available on Fanatics. And like I said, we've got a special link for you down in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to stock up on the best Dolphins swag and be swagging out with the aqua and orange, make sure you click on that link and check out the NFL Jam tees. Now, continuing on with this Ask Anything mailbag, Waddle, maybe Jalen Waddle's brother, somebody in the Waddle family asking this question using the hashtag Dolphins. Do you think we get rid of Howard? He has been underperforming lately. If you watch my perfect offseason video that's available on the channel, we sent that out about a week ago. I talked about exactly this. And here's what I'll say about Xavier Howard. He's one of the highest paid players on the Dolphins roster. And when you throw in the fact that Vic Fangio, he gone, there's a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball. And also, when you consider the Dolphins are in the second worst cap situation in all the NFL, they're looking to save money. So restructuring Xavier Howard's contract could fall into that category because he has been one of the highest paid players for the Dolphins and hasn't really performed, combined with the fact that he just wasn't healthy down the stretch. So what do we always say? The best ability is availability, and Xavier Howard was not available for the Dolphins down the stretch. However, there were some games he played really well on the opposite side of Jalen Ramsey. When Jalen Ramsey returned to the Dolphins defense, or should I say started with the Dolphins defense after that offseason knee surgery, he really elevated the level of play among several different secondary guys. Xavier Howard was one of them. So I think there's substance, there's a conversation to be had about restructuring the Xavier Howard contract. There's also a conversation to be had about just moving on from Xavier Howard altogether. I think it's a great question. And when you think of the other free agents, guys like Christian Wilkins, guys like Andrew Van Ginkel, guys on the offensive line like Connor Williams, and maybe even Rob Hunt, who all need new contracts, maybe Xavier Howard is going to be what they call a cap casualty, where the Dolphins don't have the cap space to re-sign everybody, and they choose to sign other more productive players than they do Xavier Howard. Christine Wilkerson, not Christian Wilkins, though. Maybe a distant cousin. Question here, should we re-sign Connor Williams or just let him walk? Feel like he's a better guard than center. This is an interesting question, and sometimes my opinion with this is not popular. Earlier in my perfect offseason video, I talked about the Dolphins with Connor Williams and without. They played 9 games with Connor Williams. They played 9 games without. The 9 games with Connor Williams, the Dolphins were 7-2. The 9 games without Connor Williams, they were 5-4. Now, I'm not simply saying if you have Connor Williams, you win the most of your games. If you don't, you lose most of the games. But you look at the metrics of the offensive line performance with Connor Williams compared to the offensive line performance without, they were significantly better and better as a unit with Connor Williams in the lineup. In 9 games with Connor Williams, they allowed 8 sacks as a team. In 9 games without Connor Williams, the Dolphins allowed 25 sacks. Those numbers are very telling. And again, that's just one component of offensive line play, but I think you can certainly conclude that Connor Williams elevated the level of play of this Miami Dolphins offensive line, which is why he's a free agent I want the Dolphins to prioritize signing in this offseason. But let me know what you think, because again, there's not a perfect science to this stuff. And as I mentioned, my opinion sometimes is unpopular with Dolphins fans. Let me know down in the comment, what would you do with Connor Williams? Type S for sign, or if he's another cap casualty, type P for pass. Because I'll tell you what, some team is going to pay Connor Williams. I want it to be the Miami Dolphins. Let me know what you think. Type S for sign or P for pass. This question's coming in from Ray Finkel. When are Derrick Henry jerseys going to be available? Ray, I love the way you think, especially when you consider Derrick Henry's comments on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast by Barstool, where he said, I wanted Miami to draft me. I wanted to be a Dolphin. I thought I was going to be a Dolphin. We all know what happened. He went on to have a prolific career with the Tennessee Titans, and he's a free agent now in 2024. In his last game at Nissan Stadium, he basically gave a farewell curtain call to the entire crowd, saying, deuces, see you later. And I think he does have some gas left in the tank, despite him being a little bit long in the tooth. Now, you look at the Dolphins running back room, and it's pretty tough to beat. You got a guy who just set the Dolphins franchise record in rushing touchdowns in Raheem Mostert. You've got arguably the most exciting rookie running back in Devon Achane, who set an NFL record per 100 carries for yards per carry. Incredible stuff there. And then throw in for good measure the veteran presence of a guy like Jeff Wilson Jr. That's a busy running back room already. I don't know if you've got a spot there for Derrick Henry. From Dolph Fan. Should the Dolphins give more carries to Achane next season? You read my mind. Look, I know it's not as simple as saying, hey, Raheem Mostert's your workhorse, your bell cow, and Devon Achane's your exciting, dynamic running back. But that is kind of what this has the feel to it as far as the Dolphins running back room is concerned. I just kind of outlined how I feel about the Dolphins running back room. Very, very good, and the numbers back that up. Career year for Raheem Mostert, breakout rookie season for Devon Achane. There's a lot to be said about the talent in this Dolphins running back room. And with that, I think Devon Achane showed in that playoff game he can be a guy that carries the ball between the tackles. And he can be a guy that carries it 20 times a game like Raheem Mostert was. So I think each individual game has its own unique flow. I trust guys like Mike McDaniel and hopefully Frank Smith as the offensive coordinator to determine how to allocate that football, whether it be primarily to Raheem Mostert or more to Devon Achane. Either way, those are two talented backs. Want to remind you to subscribe to the channel. Don't miss out because let me tell you, we do these live shows every single week. We bring you daily Dolphins content covering the aqua and orange in every single angle you can think of. Subscribe, join our live mailbags every single week. The link to subscribe is below. I'm telling you, you will not regret subscribing to Dolphins Today. Chugs, I need a Hall's cough drop. I need to coat my throat.
Really?
Yes.
Dude, I actually have really good cough drops from Vic's.
Really? Vic's versus Hall's.
Dude.
Who you got?
I'm telling you, I'm going to give you one out there.
Dude, I'm a Hall's guy.
It's called Icy Lemon.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it will cool your whole throat.
I am a Hall's lemon. What is it?
Honey
lemon. Yeah, Hall's honey lemon.
This is Vic's honey lemon.
Hall's versus Vic's. Speaking of Vic, one-word reaction. Vic Fangio. He gone. He gone. He gone. He gone. I actually don't know why I'm celebrating. I liked Vic Fangio a lot. I thought the defense got way better as the season progressed.
Goodbye, Fangio. It's been nice.
Hope you find your paradise. Vic is going away.
Vic.
That said, if he
Fangio.
does become the Eagles defensive coordinator, I'm cheering for every team that plays the Eagles to just score 100 points because that's clearly saying, I think Philadelphia is better than Miami. Crazy talk, but obviously his family is in Pennsylvania. But
the Eagles defense is actually kind of ass.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Well, I told Chase Sr. and Jake Chipper, our two Eagles guys, that the second they had Matt Patricia take over the defense, everything that guy touches turns to nothingness, turns to death, turns to poison. He is the definition of a cancer in human form.
You know why?
Respectfully.
It's because the luck runs out with the smaller his pencil gets that's in his ear. That was his superpower. It's like Samson with his hair.
Yeah,
the smaller the pencil got, the less and less power he had.
Matt Patricia has zero power in anything. I watched him run the Detroit Lions into the ground and then 100 feet further. And now look what Dan Campbell did for the Detroit Lions. He's got them playing the NFC Championship, which we did. Because of the breaking news, we didn't talk about the Final Four remaining. And Mary Jo Isaacson here brings up a great point. Who are you guys picking for the Super Bowl since the Dolphins aren't playing? We had planned to talk about that, but Vic Fangio and the Dolphins parted away.
Thanks, Vic.
Yeah, that's on Vic. But Mary Jo, great question. We love you, Mary Jo.
Who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
I got the Lions winning it, of course, but I think the Lions can go to San Francisco and beat the 49ers. You look at the way the 49ers played against the Packers, albeit in the rain, that was like their C- game. And the Packers had that game.
They still won.
They still won, yeah. So now they're going to play their A+ game. On the other side, though, I think the Ravens are nasty. And by really good. The Ravens have multiple double-digit wins against some of the best teams. They dominated San Francisco.
That reminded me.
Christmas
Have
Day.
you ever seen that skit of making fun of Gordon Ramsay? Like, this is disgustingly fantastic. If you're a troll who loves great food.
That's what I just did. I was like, Ravens are nasty. And by nasty, I mean good.
And by good, I mean, eh?
No, I think the Ravens are the best team left.
So you think Ravens ended up winning the whole thing?
Yes. I got Ravens and Lions for the title.
And then the Ravens just win 42-0.
Relax. They did beat the Lions. The Ravens beat the Lions earlier this season. So
yeah, we'll see.
That said, the Lions beat the Chiefs in Week 1. I've heard a lot of story.
And the Panthers beat the Texans, and the Texans ended up beating the Browns, who did end up beating the Ravens. So,
but the NFL season started. Remember, Thursday night started with Lions Chiefs. What a story! Bookends. It ends with Lions Chiefs.
I hope not.
Who do you want?
I just don't want the Chiefs.
Oh no, me either.
I'm
so sick
I have
of
a couple
Patrick
buddies
Mahomes.
who are Chiefs fans, and they are the most ungrateful fan base well.
They're the worst fan base. I have some family that are Chiefs fans, and
I cannot wait for Travis Kelce to retire and for Patrick Mahomes to have one down year and the trade talks to start in Kansas City of he's not anything without Travis Kelce.
Yeah. They are an ungrateful fan base. I mean, what is this? 5 AFC championships in a row?
Yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah. You know who's not annoying? Dolphins Today fans. We love you guys. We love you, we love you, we love you, but we're going to go research all the possible defensive coordinator replacements for Vic Fangio and have a great show for you tomorrow.
I plan on watching 25 hours of film tonight.
I'm going to watch. I was going to say the exact same thing, and then I realized that you already made the joke. I can't make the joke.